The honourable member for Strathmore Brooks, followed by Calgary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Recently, we learned that Warren Buffett's investment company, Berkshire Hathaway, is seeking to acquire Alberta transmission company Altalink. But the optics of this deal are giving some Albertans cause for concern. Berkshire Hathaway owns a major rail company that would be directly affected by the approval of the Keystone Pipeline, and Mr. Buffett has major influence within the White House. Keystone delays have been characterized by Forbes magazine as a Buffett bonanza. To the Minister of Energy, how will you ensure this company has the best interest of Albertans in mind before it takes over one of our major utilities?
Well, Mr. Speaker, now that's a good question. Mr. Speaker, we continue to work to make sure that we're advocating for Keystone Pipeline. Keystone Pipeline market access is very, very important to us. And as I said earlier, the federal process will determine whether or not this sale goes through on the electricity side. But I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, this government, this Premier, myself, other ministers, our Minister of IIR, working very hard on market access to the United States, to the East and to the West, because that is job one for us, Mr. Speaker.
For a supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, to the same minister, given this major U.S. firm has its hands in many Alberta pots, from oil to rail, and ultimately must serve its investors first, is your government taking any concrete steps to ensure this company supports the Keystone XL project and doesn't want to see it blocked? And if so, what are they?
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we do is we talk to a lot of people. Last week I was just in Pittsburgh and in New York talking about the advantage of, and another member in D.C. talking about the advantage of Keystone XL, not only just for Albertans, Canadians, but for United States workers as well. Mr. Speaker, we do everything we can to make sure Americans are aware of that, to make sure that the decision makers in America are aware of that. We will continue to do that, and that side always complains about us going and making sure we're telling the Alberta story, but we will never stop telling that story, Mr. Speaker.
Final supplemental, honourable member.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we never claim about advocating for Albertans. We just want more than talk. We want something done. Given Berkshire Hathaway has to ultimately serve its investors first, and considering pipeline delays benefit its rail investments, what action would this government take if it was found out that any officials from this company were actively trying to influence the White House away from approving Keystone?
Minister of Energy?
Go ahead.
Or Minister of International and Governmental Relations?
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This line of questioning has sort of arrived in the Wonderland area. So the reality of this is that the investment proposal will receive Industry Canada review, a full review, as the Energy Minister has indicated. It'll work through the AUC review process. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, to try and draw a relationship between a proposed investment and Keystone advocacy goes beyond the purview of this Assembly.